Welcome back into A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta for a Tuesday edition. Appreciate you guys joining us on this venture. Please give us a follow at Locked On ATL on Twitter at Mark ZInno, MarkZinno. Love to hear from you guys and get some feedback from what you guys think of the show on a daily basis. Check out all the shows that we have here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, whether it is A to Z, it's Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, ATL Day Ones with Jarvis Davis and Tanitra Batiste. Of course, the Grant McCauley Braves postcast after each Braves games that he gets up there. And we talked to Brad Rowland, Locked On Hawks. Don't forget Locked On Falcons with Aaron Freeman. We have a great team here in Atlanta. I hope you guys continue to support us all and certainly let us know what you love about Locked On Sports Atlanta. So thank you guys for joining us. This segment of the show brought to you by BetOnline.net, your number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. Find the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And I will give you my BetOnline.net picks coming up here before the end of this segment. But I did want to talk about the Atlanta Braves as they lose again last night to the Washington Nationals. And again, I'm not hitting a panic button, but two things happened we talked about yesterday on the show that came to fruition in the very next game. Does that make me a genius? Yes. No, I kid. But it's just interesting. I talked about Rosario at the top of the lineup. He played there for the first four games. Where was he batting last night? Sixth. Brian Snitker pulls him out of the top spot. What did he do last night? Over. So it didn't take long for Snitker to turn around and go, yeah, this might not be his sweet spot at the top of the lineup. Let's see what happened. Ozzie Albies hitting the top spot last night. Braves get crushed 13-2. It wasn't Huascar Ynoa's best night by any stretch of the imagination. So they fall to 2-3 again. No panic button hit whatsoever. But yesterday as well in the game, and let me just double check the number here. Yeah, the Braves struck out 8 times, bringing them to a major league leading 46 strikeouts. That is the most in the bigs to this point. Again, not something I'm going to get too excited about by any size, way, shape, or form. However, it just bears worth repeating that those are the two things I addressed yesterday: the leadoff spot and the strikeouts that probably need to get corrected sooner rather than later. Again, my thing with the Braves is that they don't have to be in first place. They don't have to dominate teams. They need to just hover around 500. What I don't want them to do is get into a deep hole they have to dig themselves out of. That's what happened last year, and they did dig themselves out of it, and they finally got into first place, and they made the playoffs, and they had a huge run and won the World Series. We all know this. Why have to go through that exercise again when you're much better than that? We all know it. So just, again, let's make sure they can win some games and float around 500 till the weather really turns here in Atlanta and they get warm and guys are starting to feel better and more loose and everything else. Like I said, it's not panic time by any stretch of the imagination, but those are two things: the leadoff spot, the table setting, and the strikeouts that I think are going to be hopefully not consistent themes that we're going to talk about. But if they are, it's going to be something that's going to be a thorn in the side for fans, for Brian Snitker, and for all of us as we want to see this team make another deep playoff run, hopefully win another World Series. They're going to need to limit those two things, or at least limit the strikeouts and get better production out of the leadoff spot. All right, NBA playoffs tonight between the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're looking at the Nets, who are laying 8 points at home and a total of 229.5. The Nets have been incredibly unreliable, and I have yet to see them play 48 minutes of consistent basketball on a routine basis. That's a little bit troublesome to me when you're asking me to lay this many points. And I think to a certain extent, there is a lot of the public that is going to jump on the Nets because of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and everything else, and with good reason. I would probably just stay away from this game altogether. For me, it would be Cavaliers or pass. I'd have to get really comfortable. I'd like to see if more money comes in. I can get this 8.5, maybe even 9. But yes, Brooklyn is a lot more talented. They certainly can score and outscore Cleveland without breaking a sweat. They beat up on them the last time these two teams played. They covered both games against the Cavaliers at the Barclays Center earlier this year. It's just a lot of points from a team that is wildly inconsistent in every aspect of the game. The fact that they allowed Indiana to hang around in a must-win game in the final game of the regular season, to me, is just worrisome to lay this many points. So I wouldn't do it. As far as the total is concerned, at 229.5, play the under. Cleveland doesn't have the offense to push this total where it needs to go. Cleveland's going to have to get to 105, 107 range, figuring that Brooklyn will be around 122. That sort of deal is where the numbers in my math and my estimation sort of add up. But I lean on the under in this spot. I would put a small play there between these two teams and feel a lot more comfortable with that. The other game tonight is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Los Angeles Clippers. And for me, as I pull the game up here on my computer, for me, this is a game where you're looking at the number one offense in the league in the Minnesota Timberwolves and a Clippers team that, with the return of Paul George, has the second best PER in the NBA. To me, this feels like this line has moved back to a pick 'em, I guess now is what I'm seeing in certain spots. No, I have Minnesota -3. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong thing here, but nonetheless, we are in a spot here with this game where I can trust that the Timberwolves will score. How much defense will the Clippers be able to play and slow them down? My biggest play here is on the over. That 230 is much shorter than what it should be. Again, Minnesota's going to score. They're going to get to 115, 120. And easily, I'm going to get the Clippers with Paul George back in the lineup to get to 110 or 115. And they'll both be in that same range. But this is a short number. I can back the over here. With a full unit play, just because knowing how Minnesota plays, unless they just miss a ton of shots, which I don't envision them doing, this will be a faster paced game than a lot of people expect, especially for a playoff game when defenses tend to tighten up a little bit more and shot selection becomes a little bit more, I guess, measured, if you will, is the word that I'm looking for. But again, when I look at these two teams, it's hard for me to really pick a side. I could definitely see the Clippers winning this game, especially with Paul George back in the lineup. And it's tempting to take the points with Paul George because they may be a better team overall. But Minnesota's offense is really, really tough to slow down. So I'm just going to stay on the over in this one. No play on the side for me. And we'll sit back and watch. And hopefully Brooklyn does their job and make sure that the Hawks will end up facing the Cleveland Cavaliers in their second playing game in the play-in tournament. Because if Brooklyn loses this one, wow, man, it's not going to be fun. All right, that'll do it for A to Z here today on this Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow. Continue to reach out to me on social media at Mark ZInno, MarkZinno on Twitter. I'm also at the same on Instagram if you want to follow me there. Look at pictures of my kids and my family, which you probably have no desire to do. But I also like to make a lot of jokes there, so it's fun. Anyway, back tomorrow. Appreciate you guys spending your Tuesday with us right here on A to Z. You guys have a great day. Don't turn any crap from anybody. See ya.